Hey y'all. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but am I the first person to customize one of these? Because I haven't seen anyone else do it. I kind of want that bragging right. I don't know if I own it or not, but this is an Hmbr custom of the technically Lego version of Bizarro Batman. There's a comic book version of the character as well that looks way different. I prefer the Lego Batman because, one, I own the Lego Batman figure, and also it just kind of cuter to me. And of course, I did have to change some stuff up about it, which we'll get into in a bit with the footage. But the reason why I wanted to do this was, one, Eric kind of planted the idea in my head to do a custom Hmbr when I was on a stream with him and Sassy not too long ago, and I want this stuff. And also, I decided to come full circle with this, in a way. So this is the first craft video, hopefully, that you guys are seeing for June, Pride Month. Now, this has nothing to do with Pride Month, other than the fact that, you know, a lesbian is doing it. But it's a bit of an anniversary of sorts. 2 years ago, a friend of mine, Giggle Gal, said, hey, there's this girl doing a live stream tonight about Pride, and you should go check it out. And I said, okay, I'll be there. And so I've never heard of this channel before. I don't know, it just sort of went over me. I never heard of her, never knew this channel. I knew it was a two-person show. I knew him. I did not know her. This was my first introduction to my fun company, aka Brandy. That was Brandy's first channel that she did with Fox Crown. And the two, Brandy would be the main host, and then Fox would come in about halfway through whenever the video got to 17 likes. And it was just so hilarious. I ended up loving that show. Of course, I already knew Fox. I loved him, and somehow or another I became friends with Brandy. I still don't know how I screwed that one up for me, but whatever. But that night, I'm in Brandy's stream, and subject of customs come up, and I mentioned that I do them. I do Funko Pop customs. And she's like, okay, well, then I'm calling you out. And that should have been my first hint to stay away from her. But no, she's like, I'm calling you out then. She said she was doing a charity stream, which is why I drug this out of the closet. Art with a Heart, collector family strong, and then it has July of 2020 on there, which is when we did it. It was a fundraiser auction to raise money for children with the Childhood Brain Tumor Foundation, I believe is what it's called. But yeah, that was my first interaction with Brandy. She called me out to do some customs for her auction, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And one of the customs that I did for it was a pop version of Bizarro Batman. And so when I decided to do an Hmbr, I decided, let's make it full circle. Let's make a Bizarro Batman Hmbr. So I found one at Walmart whose box was a little torn up, and I didn't notice till it got home, but I actually had a really bad paint mess up. There was a big glob of yellow paint from its belt up here by the ear. So I fixed it. But this didn't turn out exactly the way I thought it would. Is it better? Is it worse? I honestly think it's kind of better. There's still some things I wish I could have changed on it. Some things that technically I still could go back and change if I wanted to. But, you know what? Let's just roll the footage. We'll come back to it. Okay, guys, so getting right on into this, you can see there's a small paint flaw on the head, so no one bash me too much for ruining a handmade by robot, okay? So, I know they're brand new and shiny for the community, but this one had an error on it, so it was fair game. But and so in fair game, I cut off the error part of the game. So because this is vinyl and it's not solid vinyl, obviously, like they're hollow, this was super easy to cut through. I was thinking I might need to heat it up or something, but no, because it was all vinyl and hollow vinyl, it was so easy to cut through. Then I also cut part of the ever precious tag off. I know it's a sin, I know, but I was just happy there was no heat necessary. These came off really easily. And then I went ahead and epoxy sculpt got my epoxy sculpt out and tried to make the yarn look like it was frayed in the parts where I cut off. I didn't really do that really well. I actually made it look like lumpy. I was trying, okay? I didn't really know what it looked like. I tried looking up pictures and I couldn't find a good one. I should have asked Mary. But I do end up covering up later and it still looks good. And then I made some dangling yarn. I tried to make it look like it was the same width that what was being used, in the mold for the figure. And put those in both the areas that I cut off as well as one on the front of the body. These were very fragile. Epoxy sculpt hardens into like a rock when it's fully dry or fully cured. But when it's such a small, thin piece, it's still very, very fragile. And so a tip of the yarn on the head actually did break off, and I didn't bother gluing it back after this. So, yeah, I did have to super glue it down, and that I super glued it down much later into the process, and yeah, we'll get back to that in a minute. But so I primed all of the not black parts, because the black parts were going to stay black. The mask, the cape, the gloves, the boots, they're all staying black. So I didn't bother priming them. So I just put the primer on the gray parts and the belt. So I used a very watered down paint, and this came straight out of the bottle like this. Cheap paint, it either gets really, really thick on you or it gets really, really thin on you. And this one gets really, really thin, like to the point where I was like, do I need to get like cornstarch out? Because I've seen other artists use cornstarch for very thin paint to thicken it up. But I've never tried it. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna keep going. It was really weird. It was really weird. But one of the problems with this, and I realized it fairly quickly even from doing the primer, was you really kind of have to think about your paint strokes when you're doing this. I was trying to do it in like a vertical, uh, I was putting my brush up and down, like making vertical strokes. That's the word, strokes. And I wasn't painting it very well. Well, like I just do that naturally, but I really had to go horizontal to get into all the nooks and crannies in a better way. And also, I didn't want to go super thick in some places, like let this thin paint run into the crevices, because then it would lose that detail if it thickened up too much. So you really have to pay attention to that kind of stuff to make sure you're not losing the detail, not making it super thick. But yeah, it kind of worked against me. And then I have a paint color that's called I think it's called white lilac or something like that. But it's just a slightly off white paint. Like it has the tiniest bit of purple or pink in it. So I use that for the face because Bizarro Batman has, very pale skin, just like Bizarro Superman. And then I did a brown belt. For some reason, I look back at the picture of the pop that I did. For some reason, I made it a black belt when it's clearly supposed to be a brown. I don't know. I'm sorry to the people who have that one because I don't know why I did that, but anyway, painted the belt brown. Good God! And then I tried to make gray lines on Bizarro's face because I feel like that kind of gives it more of a creepier look, and you do see it sometimes with Bizarro characters in the comics. Yeah, I realized it wasn't going to look all that great unless I followed the yarn pattern, and I tried to do that. No. What really I should have done, I should have gotten some more epoxy out, and kind of like how the mouth is molded on, I should have made more very thin pieces of like string to do it with. But I didn't want to get it back out, and I'm just like, we're just going to see what it looks like without it. If I don't like it by the end of it, then I'll go back and do it. But I ended up giving just a teeny tiny bit of a smile to Batman, just ever so slightly pushing beyond the barriers of that mold, just a teeny bit. And then I painted the black part of the clay that I did, the strings. This was also right after I super glued them. And I thought I had given the glue time to dry. And I ended up super gluing the bristles of one of my favorite brushes. And I've done this before. I should know better. Having to throw that brush away hurt. It really hurt, but you can't get super glue out of a brush, unfortunately. And then I tried to do the upside down logo, because in my head I pictured just going beyond the barrier of the mold, and it would look kind of cool still, but no. I tried doing it, didn't look good at all. So, ended up having to redo that, brush it off, try to remove as much as possible, paint over the smudges. And then I ended up adding Joker Green while I repainted the black on, and then I added Joker Green to it. And I had to do this twice before I got the effect that I wanted. I wanted to really look dingy green Joker look to this. And I think it did work out really well. And this is actually where I put the smile on as well. On the bat face. And then I got the chalk pastels out, and I made two different colors. I made a more grayish, so that it would show up on the black part of the figure, and then I made a more like purplish black color for the rest of it. And I really wanted to make it look like it was worn out. Like, I already had the strings and stuff coming from it. I wanted to make this look like, like it was a plush toy, like someone just played with it until it totally fell apart. Hence why I also cut off the ear and stuff at the very beginning. And then I went in with some stuff called Snotex. I bought this Snotex at Hobby Lobby. I did another project after this one, or two projects after this one. Finally ran out of it. This stuff lasted me a while. And I don't know what it is, but it's some kind of weird paint powdery thing that once it hardens, it just looks like snow. Like it doesn't alter shape once it dries very much. It may shrink a little bit, but not enough to be noticed. And I used it for the stuffing to make it look like it was falling out of the seams, and I think it looked pretty darn good. But yeah, this was my first Hmbr figure. Also, I did not seal this. It is not varnished in any way, because I didn't want to spread the chalk pastel around. And I don't have any spray-on sealant at the moment. When I get some in the future, this will definitely be getting sealed, but I don't want to spread the chalk pastel around by using a wet varnish. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Let's roll the outro. So, yeah, one thing, I am happy with the way it turned out. I think it turned out amazing. But, so, I definitely could have done the fraying around the rips a little bit better. You can still kind of see them through the stuffing coming out. But, I think it still looks okay. The string is coming out. I wish I'd done them a little bit thicker so they're not so fragile, because this one I'm just so terrified of, because it did come off once when I was working on it and I had to re-glue it back on. So I'm just always so terrified. I can't put this thing back in its box, because this is going to snap off. And I guarantee you one day it's going to snap off. The rest of it should be on pretty well. But yeah, I kind of wish I did them thicker, but at the same time I was trying to match the width of the pattern. So, something you kind of have to work with. And again, my brush strokes changed for this pop. And I didn't even realize it until I was kind of forced to make a more even coat. And you really have to pay attention to how much paint you're putting down, because you don't want to glob it on to the point where it's going to dry in a clump and mess up that texture. And there is some spots, if you look real close, where it was starting to lose some texture in the pattern. Not completely, but it was. If I had put a couple more coats on, it would have evened out, and it would have lost some of that texture. So that's something you're really going to have to keep in mind if you ever want to customize one of these knit figures, and to make sure you're not losing that. And another thing, I really wish I had put those gray lines in. Again, what I should have done is try to make really, really thin pieces of epoxy. Or maybe not even epoxy. Maybe I could have done it with like... Maybe I could have done it with hot glue strings. You know how when hot glue gets that stringiness to it? And just laid it on there. It would have gotten messy. But I probably could have done it with some patience. But I just didn't. And I was trying to follow the pattern at first. I'm like, this looks horrible. So, no. And then the Lego version of Batman, instead of having, you know, an upright logo, has an upside down one. So I tried to do that. Didn't work. So I just opted for a really dark Joker green that I mixed in with the black to make it really gruddy looking, which I think really worked. My favorite part of it is absolutely the Snotex that I have for stuffing coming out of it. This is awesome. I don't know what Snotex is necessarily. I know it's something water-based, but I don't know. You can color it using acrylic paint if you wanted to for a different, project, or you can paint over it once it's done. It's probably easier to mix the paint in beforehand, to be fully honest with you, but this stuff worked absolutely perfect. Poor little Tad. You can still flip it. You can still flip it a little bit. And I didn't mean for it to happen, but as I was putting the chalk pastel on, a lot of it fell onto here, and when it was brushed off, it left little grimy streaks on there. I don't know if you can tell it on camera, but up close you can definitely tell where it's a little bit dirty, so it totally works. But yeah, I think this came out looking pretty dang good. It's not going anywhere. It's not for sale. I'm keeping it. But yeah, so thank you, Brandy, for introducing the community. Well, I guess I could say reintroducing, because I know Eric was the first person that I knew of that had one of these, in my recollection anyway. And I know Mama J was buying them. I know Geeky Mama had several of them. But it wasn't until Brandy kind of showed... I'm sorry. I just inhaled something and had like a little coughing fit. So now I'm trying to get my voice back. It wasn't until Brandy kind of reintroduced these to the community, because she thought she was seeing them for the first time. Eric showed it to me the same time she did it to her. But gotta call her out on it. But I didn't know that... First off, I couldn't tell you what company it was. I could have just told you that there are these little figures that look like they're knitted together. But I couldn't tell you anything else. So she introduced me to the company, and she introduced that there were others other than horror. So I didn't see any of them besides horror before Brandy was like, here, look, guys, look at these. Look at these. Aren't they cool? Look, guys, look. Before she started doing that. So, love you, Brandy. But I really do think this turned out good. Let me know what you guys think. Should I try to make a Bizarro Superman next? Should I just try to do like a whole Bizarro trilogy and do Superman and then Wonder Woman? Because I've been thinking about it. I have a Bizarro... Where is she? I have a custom Bizarro Lego figure that I can work with Wonder Woman. So, I don't know who the artist was behind this. I just picked it up at a con in 2020. So, it was the last con I went to before the world changed. So, that's a possibility. You never know. But let me know what you guys think. And so I can try to experiment a little bit more. But yeah, I think it came out good. Let me know what y'all think. And remember, y'all, like always, it's a community, non-competition. I'll see y'all later. Bye.